My name is John Hudson. I'm actually John C. Hudson III. My father is Jack Hudson. He's an artist as well. I have family heritage from the Tsimshian tribe of Metlakatla, Alaska, and I currently reside in Metlakatla, and I am running the Native Art program there. When I think back of how I am where I am now without people willing to show me things I didn't know, and without people willing to open up and share knowledge with me, it would be very difficult for me to be doing the things that I'm doing now. And my father was an art teacher, and so I spent a lot of time with him learning and also watching how he taught and then picking up a lot of his teaching style. But without, if you're not willing to share what you know, it's not really fair, because most people didn't get to where they are without learning something from somebody. So I feel like there's a real necessity to give something back, because it kind of keeps the cycle healthy. I would say I'm trying to keep things going. There's been a lot of pioneers in bringing things back. I'm trying to keep that cycle going. You know, the Northwest Coast Native art culture is really strong, and it's gaining momentum. I've been able to go back through the Smithsonian's Artist Leadership Program a few times and take a look at some things that aren't very prevalent, like, say, whistles and double beating reed instruments and puppetry. And I've been able to learn about those through some very generous grants and things. And so I've been able to bring some of that knowledge out and share it with people. But I wouldn't say I'm necessarily bringing anything back. I think what I'm doing is just focusing on an area that's maybe a little forgotten, and maybe just reminding people that it's still there, and then trying to pass on what I've learned. I've been lucky to where I've had a lot of chance to get into museum collections. This is my third residency, and I've looked at some marvelous pieces while I've been here. And I've looked at some marvelous pieces, a lot of different museums. And I do draw a lot of inspiration, and I really like looking at the craftsmanship and the sort of things that were created, because to me, I want to hold myself to a level that tries to maintain the level of artistry and craftsmanship that was there before. And I think sometimes in today's modern era, regardless of the fact that we might have better tools and things like that, we're still sort of missing a little something when you look at the level of the pieces that there used to be. So I'm always looking at them, trying to see if I can even ever make something that compares to those older pieces, So I draw inspiration from those, and then I like to, like I said, my head creates fantasies about reasons why I may have used an object or something, and so I'll create it for purposes that I feel appropriate. And part of being an artist nowadays too is that you can't always continue to look for reasons things were done in the past. I think we have to come up with our own new reasons for doing things and make our art relevant to today. But I think we have to hold ourselves to the quality and the artistry and the craftsmanship of yesterday. I really do. I'm such a fan of the old Northwest Coast, and I read everything I can. I talk to people. I've made it a point to talk to people that know a lot more than I do about stories and things. And somebody once said to me, and I don't know who it was, that art should take you somewhere you wouldn't normally go. And so when I'm contemplating art pieces, my mind will really drift off and fantasize about the way things used to be and how things might have been used and why. And going through the process, I feel like I learn something new every time I'm making a new art piece. I feel like I'm learning something new. And I once said something to somebody that it feels like I'm apprenticing with an ancestor while I'm creating something. So the process for me is very personal, and I really get into a meditative spot and really let my mind drift off while I'm working on art pieces in my studio. So it's very much I let my mind go off and kind of fantasize about how the Northwest Coast used to be, kind of a simpler time where art and theatrics and things like that were a lot more prevalent than maybe that they are now. So it's a very fulfilling time and a very fun time when I'm actually in my studio working. Bill Reed said, when we look at a piece of Northwest Coast native art, we're looking at its afterlife. Its real life is the movement by which it got to be that shape. And so that, I think any artist working, it that's obviously a statement from an artist, because when we sit in our studio, when we sit in our shop and we're making this art object, it changes and shifts and moves and goes through so many different processes, and our hands are on it and we're shaping it and molding it and moving it and removing wood. And that is a whole entire life for that piece. And then once it's finished, that's it. There's no more movement to that piece. And so that's its afterlife. That's where it's going to live forever. But its real life was the movement by which it got to be that shape. And so I love that quote. It fits. And I mean, with me, that really resonates, and I understand it. And I talk to my students about that and let them know that, what, this is a process all in itself. And you know what? An art object, if you're carving a mask or a bowl or a whistle or a rattle, it goes through so many processes and different looks until the very last second, it doesn't look like that end piece. And so, the process on how it got to be there is really something. A lot of thought, a lot of careful craftsmanship, a lot of creativity, a lot of things go into making that piece. As much as we can, that when you're creating an art piece, say something that's a very traditional art piece, you get thoughts that, you're doing something that somebody probably did 300 or 400 years ago, and you're literally doing the same thing. You're probably going through the same issues and troubles with the wood. You're going through solving spatial issues and design issues, and so you really do feel connected to the past, I think, when you're creating a traditional art object. And I think, yeah, you're going through the same struggles. We might be going through a few less struggles with some of our nicer tools now, but it really makes you feel like you're connected to some form of history there for sure. When I'm making something, my idea for it usually happens when I'm making something else, because that's the time where, for some reason, my creative thoughts come in. So I'll be working on something else, and while I'm working on that, my mind will start drifting off, and thoughts of something really exciting will come in, and I'll be like, oh boy, that's a great idea. I want to do that. So I'll stop and write it down, or in today's day and age, I'll jot a note on my iPhone in my art ideas folder. Some things I'm doing, I have a clear image in my head of how I want it to look, and I won't accept it until I have that piece the way it looked in my mind's eye. And sometimes I'll be making something, and along the way, it'll start kind of materializing that, oh my goodness, this could be so much better. It's kind of going a different direction now. I'm going to go with it. And so I have both both processes, where sometimes the art piece will take me its own direction, and sometimes I won't let it because I have a very specific thing in mind. It's been a marvelous experience, from getting to see the collections and touching things to, it's always fun to listen to other artists and the collaboration where you see different techniques. We all do things a little bit differently, and so um, it is fun for us to look how other people do things. And it was especially fun working with the young college students because they were very enthusiastic and they were loving what they were doing, you know. And when one of them came back the next day, and he wasn't even really supposed to be back, but he wanted to be back to make sure that he got his whistle working, you know, and he was so enthusiastic about getting ready to make some more and put them to work in his dance group. I thought that was really cool. So it's been really rewarding, and yeah, it's been impactful, I think, for all of us artists as well. So thanks for having us.